I remember in previous tutorial I explained how to get a floor plan up from how to build house really from floor plan up. I'm sorry about my mouse. I'm recording at midnight here, so um I just woke up, so that's why. All right, so now I've gone ahead to create another floor plan, and it's just the same process I use for this. But now before I get into the texturing stage, I want to look at the um building and quickly unwrap the building. And the reason is because of texturing, because if I'm to paste my texture over this directly, I'm going to be having some stretching and all of that, or some textures not being placed correctly. And which is why I want to unwrap so that I will be able to set all of my sides or all of my faces correctly for the texture to be wrapped um, in the way that I want it to be. So let me use this as an example. So if I isolate this guy and just switch to my shading workspace, that's here. I can press forward slash again to isolate because it's a new workspace. And while I'm here, I could actually create a new material here, or I can just click on this new, and then I'm going to add a new material. And if I change any color here, nothing happens because I'm just working with color shape, just like a shading. That's just what I'm working with. And when you are shading your elements or your objects, you really do not get any issues. And the reason is because nothing is being pasted or nothing is being mapped on this object. All right. So color will not really change anything. So if you're working on coloring, just the default shade as I have it, you really do not need to have a need for UV unwrap. But where the UV unwrap comes to play is when you want to start to add some texture maps to be on that object. So if I want to add my texture maps, I will just press Ctrl T. Sorry, this will add all these levels, but that's not what I actually want. I want to press Ctrl Shift T. And what Ctrl Shift T would do is going to take me to my desktop or my system, and I can now look for materials that I want to add to it. All right. So basically, there is a plugin that is making this control work, and that plugin is if you go to your edit preferences and you go to add-ons. By the way, I'm using 4.0 version. If you're using 4.2, you have to go to extension and install the extension. All right. So as if you don't find that. So under my add-ons, if I type Wrangler, and this is the plugin that I want, Node Wrangler. And this Node Wrangler is you need to have it always on because if you're texturing, this is a very important plugin that helps. And so once you have enabled it, just come to this hamburger menu, click it and save preference so that next time you run Blender, you would have to enable anymore. It would have been enabled for you. So if I press Ctrl Shift T, it's going to take me to my system to look for materials that I want to use. So I have a couple of materials here that I will just quickly try to use. So you see, so let's choose this brick. So this brick has the diffuse color, the displacement, the normal, and the roughness. So I only need these three. This not I'm not really working with displacement. I'll be using normal in place of displacement. So once I select these three materials that I need or textures that I need and I click on principled texture setup, it's going to set it up for me and I'm going to have all of them connected together in this set. See the base color, which is the diffuse comes to the base color, the roughness goes to the roughness, and then you have the normal goes to the normal map, which is in turn connected to this. So it will do the heavy lifting for us, so we don't have to do anything. And this is what I was saying. You see that once I added that texture, it looks um odd because this is meant to be a brick texture. Because This is meant to be a big brick texture, and we have not unwrapped this. It's not really giving us that brick texture that we actually are supposed to have, and which is why the need for unwrapping is key. Remember when we used just the normal color, we didn't see all of these artifacts, we didn't see all of these, but now that I added this texture map, I'm beginning to see that, oh, it's really not mapping correctly. So what we need to do is to now start setting this up for us to start to see the texture. And what I'm going to do this first is if I press N on my keyboard while my mouse in my viewport and I go to items, I want to be sure that my scale is 111. If it's not 1 to 1, just press Ctrl A to bring up the apply menu and then click on the scale. But in my own case, scales are applied, it's 1 to 1. And once that is done, the next thing I'm going to do is to start to unwrap this product. I could actually go into my UV editing to do that, but I won't do that just yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change this, my folder browser, file browser rather, to UV editor so that while I'm doing everything, I'll be seeing all of this together right here. So while I'm still in my texture. So I'll select this object and I'll press tab to go to edit mode. And so the way UV Unwrap works is that it's just like you are taking the scissors and you're cutting through the section. So let me just say I want to pick this part of this object. Oh, okay. By the way, I'm going to undo that. Not undo really. Go back to the object mode and / to isolate. And I'm going to pick this, for instance, to explain the unwrap, and then we can now use that here. Okay, so if I come to this and I / to have this, I don't have any texture. And if I go into tab, and you're going to see it's giving us all the faces of this object, the way it will look like. Can you see that here? This face is here. So this particular face, if I select this face, it's highlighted here. If I select the down face, highlighted. This is this, this. So in total, you should have 6 faces, all right? 4 and 2 up and down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But now the issue with this is that I'm going to be having stretching because from my 3D viewport, you can tell that this is kind of elongated on the horizontal side, but it's giving me like a square here, which is not really mapped correctly because this face and this, they are not the same. It's actually not a square face, but it's more of a rectangle that is squashed, all right? But it's not really giving me what that looks like, which is why if I'm to add a texture now, so let's say I'm going to add a material and I come here, I use texture map. Sorry, I use image texture. My texture. So while I'm in my image texture, I click instead of open, I'll click on new, and I want to change this to um, UV grid. Just call this UV grid also. And I'll click on, and this is what I have. Can you see that this I'm having stretching going on here and here? So, and this will pose a problem for me because really, when I'm having texture on all of my objects, I want to have square shape as possible for this my UV grid all through and of the same size. All right. So everything should be laid out proportionately the way they are here. All right. And the reason why it's possible for me to select and see is because this is checked. If I uncheck this, it's only going to be showing what I have selected. All right. It's only going to be showing what I have selected in the UV space. But once I uncheck this to synchronize whatever I have as a 3D space, so it's more like if I select a face here, it's also been selected here. The same if I select space here, it's also been selected here. All right. So, but this one will only show me the UV island of whatever face that I have selected. But now that's not the point now. So the point is we want to map this correctly so that everything will be square. You can see that on this island, everything is perfect square, and we want it to also be like the same. So if you look here, all these are perfect square, but now these are stretched, and we don't want that. So how to do that will be, first off, go to object mode, make sure it is applied. So all the scales are applied. So I'll go back to edit mode. Then I want to now tell Blender that I'm going to be cutting these guys out. So for me to do that, I'll go to my edge mode, select all of these edges. Once I select these edges, and I press U as shortcut menu, or I can come to the UV menu here. I want to mark the seam. So all these edges that I have selected, I want to tell Blender that I want this to be marked as a cutting seam. And as soon as I do that, it's going to turn it to red. And this is letting us know that Blender recognizes these edges as where it's going to cut. All right. So now once we have that cut, and then I'll go to my face mode, select that face. If I go back to my UV and I click unwrap, it's going to unwrap it and make it look like the way it is. You can see that it's elongated, and also this is elongated right here. And notice it's only picking this face because I only selected this face before unwrapping. All right. So if I had selected two faces before unwrapping, it will only unwrap those two faces. So which is why when you are unwrapping, you need to pick parts gradually as you want to work on them. So, and this is just to show you can see that the stretching has gone away. I now have a perfect square. And let's do the same thing here. And now, don't forget, if I unwrap this now, there's nothing is cutting out from, okay? So because if I unwrap, it unwraps that, but now you see that they are not the same size. The reason is because I do not have a cutting edge, so it just unwrapped it the way it wanted. So if I go back to my edge mode and I select all of these edges, two, three, and I press UV, or I can just press U on my keyboard, it's going to bring the UV menu, mark seam. Now I have this red seams on this. If I click on this face, select this face, U, and then unwrap. We're going to unwrap that. And also, the reason why these are two different sizes is because I unwrap them separately. So if I select both faces now and then unwrap, it's going to try to make them equal sizes. You can see that. And the reason is obvious that I have both faces selected. So it will unwrap based off of their size and based off of the section of unwrapping that I'm doing. So, which is why I would want to select all these faces that I want to cut and cut. And once I have all this, you mark it first. And then because I have everything, if I press face mode and I press A to select all the faces, you and then unwrap. You're going to unwrap all of these faces and you can now see that they now have equal edges. All right. And that is that. So the next thing will now be to now start to change, because right now, if you look at these points, um, if I go to this point and I select these points, I want to see the way it looks on the UV space. So I'm going to synchronize. So you can tell that this point is here. And if I go to this opposite point, it's here. So what's happening is that this face, this line, supposed to be at the top. If I go to edge and I select this edge, this is the edge right here selected. It's supposed to be at the top. And also this edge is connected to this long face, which is this. So I want to, if I select this edge also, you see, this is vertical. I want it to look kind of be horizontal because right now, this is not really representing the way it is in the viewport as to the way it is in the, what's it called, in the UV space or island. So what I'll do is I'll just select all by pressing A and then come to the UV island, R to rotate, hold down Control to constrain this so that we now have it the way it should be. All right, so we have that done here. I can use my G to move this into the island. Make sure everything is in the island, and if for any reason it's going out. Actually, doesn't have any issue, but I just like having all of my UVs faces in the island. You can also scale it down so that it fits into this. So the smaller they become, the larger the um, UV grid is, and the larger they become and the smaller the UV grid are. So I'm just going to try to make sure they fit into this. And that's how you would do this. All right. So another thing I also you will notice is that I'm going to take my time to explain with this so you understand how to correct everything that is required or needed. And another thing you'll understand that because we cut all the edges are being cut for us and then put arranged the way um Blender feels it wants to arrange them, and is not really following through to the way they are connected. All right. So we know that this edge is connected to this edge, but it's not really putting them in the position that they should be. All right. If I go to my point mode and I select this point, see that this point is here and then this point is here. So you can already tell that this is not really arranged. So if I would want to do this, what I would do is select all, move this out of the way, and then select this face. And only that face, I'm going to move this here, somewhere here, and then select this face, move it out, and I will position it such that they are accurate. Because right now, if I go to this point, select this point, the point connected to this, right? So that means I will select this particular island, just this face, like so. And if I do this now, I'm going to have issues because I'm in this synchronized mode. So I'll just want to select this and then rotate this way 90 degrees, 180 degrees rather. Then if I go back to the synchronize, I am sure that this is, you can now see that they are now aligning, all right? So what I can do is I can go back here, select these two faces, all right? While I'm in my UV space, I can just move this into position by just G and that. So what I'm doing now is, if you look at this edge, you will notice something that you see the red and black. I need to make sure they are in the same position so that there will be consistency in the movement. So I might need to move this G and then move this right here. It's just to be at least to try to get that. So you can see that if you look through this, this continues here and that continues there. So that's how I'm going to continue connecting everything. You get? Now I can select both. Even if I move them, it will still stay in that connection, which you can see here, the last part. The smaller part comes to this side, which you can see, and every other thing. So, and that's the work that Blender didn't do for us. So we have to do that so that by the time you're adding a texture, everything will be correctly mapped on this object. But there is a way I can actually leave these parts so that they will be connected. I'll just do little work, right? And that is, I could select this edge, which already have seam. I'm going to remove it as a seam. I don't want to cut this edge. So if I go to edge mode, I select this edge, U, and I can clear the seam. So now I don't have any seam. By the time I unwrap, this will flow together. All right. So I do not want everything round to just go like that. So I want to let this and this come flat while this face and this face come flat. So I'll select this edge, U, clear my seam. And now that I have this, that means this top will be cut out, this base will be cut out, while this one will kind of open up, and then this will open up. And this is what you get. If I select all, and then I UV and unwrap, you're going to see that we now have these two guys connected because they are just one object. Okay. And if you look through this place where you don't have any marks in, see that this continues here, but it cuts at this point, and this continues at this point. So the white continues all the way to this place before you have the black. And then the only work I just now have will now be this to quick start positioning this. Right? So let's see how that is. So if I select all of these guys and it's showing me here. Also, again, I want to make sure that they are correctly positioned. All right. So if you see these points here, this point is right here, and this is. So that means I need to rotate this way so that the top will be at the top and the base will be at the base. So I'll just come here to my select all, come here, select all again, then rotate this way, holding down control to constrain this 90 degrees, and then I can move this into position. So now, if I go to synchronize again, I select this point, it's correctly placed, and I select this point, it's correctly placed. But now the only work we now need is to now set the position, all right? Because what is linking to this top, it is this face that is linking to that top. So if I look at this face, so you see, this face is actually what is linking to the top of this face, this and this. See that's and but so the other thing again is that I need to also change the rotation because right now this should be rotated correctly. So this face or this point to this point, and then this point, which is here, to that point. So I need to rotate this the other way. So I'll check again, A to synchronize, select this guy. I'll just press L to select this island, and then R for rotate. Hold down Control to rotate this correctly, 90 degrees, so that if I move this here, it will look like it just like I did earlier on. So the only work I'm be doing will just be for this top and the bottom. So I'll move this close and then G to move this into position. Just make it close. And then I want to do the next one. So synchronize again so that it's showing me whatever I have selected here. So this base, which is these two guys here, this and this. So that this and this. This is at the top here and this here. So that means I'm going to rotate this guy. So I'll have to cross check again. This is connected to the down parts, or this is connected to the up part. So that means I need to rotate this way, the opposite way. So I'll click here, A in the viewport, and then just select only this one, L. Then I'll rotate it this way because, and once we do that, you're going to see what will happen next. So G and place this here. So I'm trying to make sure I place it the way they are connected here, right? So G, position this here. So once I have that done, if you look at this now, I have this guy, this, and then this. So I need to first off select these guys out of the way. So if I come here, these ones that are not, so that I'll have every other thing on for me. I just want to use this. So I will use my G to move this out of the way. So now I have this face, which is connected to that face, which is at the top, and connected to this place, which is under, right? And that solves that. So while we are here, let's look at the next one that is on this side. We know that this is what's on the side. So let's move this here again. And let's now analyze. But first off, let's move every other thing. We select this. This is what it is here. We just move this idea is on this side. And then we know that this is connected here. So we can just choose either move it to this point or this point. So we'll know what where we're moving this to in a moment. So let's synchronize again. We're already synchronized. So let's select the edge or the point, and that will help us to know. So this is the face. So we're starting with this face. Click here, select this point. You can see that this and this connect is kind of correct. So what we'll do is just select this guy, and we have to also, don't forget, select this face. Make sure only that face is selected, and then I can move this here, move this right here, just to be a little bit close, and that will try as much as to get that correctly. And you also see that this flushes together with here, and if you look at the down part also follows through. Okay, so we are going to work on this base, right? Because right now it's not really flowing with that base. All right. So let's look at this down this part. So just select this. And right now it's not correctly placed, so we just move this here again. G to move. So while I'm moving, you are seeing it in the 3D viewport also. So I will just zoom this in here, move right here, and that will try to correct this. So let's say this face and then this face. Okay, so I think we need to check again to be sure. So you see that we are missing something now. So that's another thing. We selected this point. We know that this point is connected to this top part of the face and then this top part of this face. But now, see what's happening. So this point should be here. If I come here, this point should be here. So that means we will have to select this, then rotate this correctly, and that should mark it correctly. So we just need to now move this into position. Okay, so we'll have this moved right there. Actually, it's correct. You can see from here to here. It's correct. Right. So this how I will do that. So let's look at these points and to know where to connect these two. So if I select this point, you can see that it's connected to this, it's connected to this. So that means you have to select this and rotate that point. Select this and then rotate this face. And then I can move this here. That will try to solve that UV space. So we have everything moving equally or correctly. So that is that. And basically, that's just how you would do this and arrange them. You can see now. And then if I select everything, I can decide to now scale them in, or I will just move them directly like that. If I scale them in, the the UV grid will be really large. So, but if you scale them out, it doesn't really matter because it will still just imagine that this UV grid continues that way. Like I said, I just like having everything in. But in this case, if I have everything in, the UV will be too uh, large, I meaning the texture will be small. So I want to have a large some texture. And that's how I'm going to do this. And so this is just the basics and the idea for texturing every other parts, right? So now that I have this done, what I can now do is I can now continue texturing every other part that way. So I'm going to unisolate this, go back to object mode, isolate that, and you see that that one is correctly done. And but the next is I think I may have. mistakenly move this out. See, let me just move this out a little bit. Yeah, I think it's okay. I think it's like that. So we have this also. If you forward slash, if you tab this and A, you see that this is also not mapped correctly, right? You can see that object mode, make sure it is um applied, all the skills are applied. There is one more thing I haven't tried, but let's see that is copying my UV and adding it to this object. So the first things is first, I want to select this, make sure I have that UV grid material on this same object. So if I just look for UV, it is UV grid, and this is not really mapped correctly. You can see how messy it is, just the same way we started from here. So what we'll do is if I select this, hit tab, press all, just press A to select all. You come to your UV, you have option to copy your UVs, and we can go out. Let's select this, hit tab, select all on your UV. Let's see if we paste UV, I see nothing happens. So let's select all here, paste UV, nothing really happens here. All right. So maybe there's something I'm maybe missing. So please, if you have an idea of this, maybe you might need to please help us. I really want to know how this works. Okay. So, but then what I will do is the same thing I did here. I'll just go to my edge mode, select these edges, and I'm going to keep these two edges together. So let's isolate, and I'm going to be cutting at this point. U mark sim, and I'll do the same thing here. Select this. I'll leave the one in the middle because I want to have that. U mark sim. So that's basically all I need to do here. And then I will go to my face mode, A to select all, U, and then unwrap. And then we'll also unwrap this the way we had that. You can see that. So I will now start to decide to rotate again, because right now, if you check this point, sorry, let's synchronize. If I check this point, it's here. If I check the down part, down is here. So that means we need to rotate this. So if I press A, I can rotate this, holding down control so that it is mapped correctly. So I could continue that way and also do the same thing by copying this and all of that. So I think at this point, I'm guessing if I select here, select all and all here, let's copy this UV and select this all and paste the UV. No, really working. So it didn't really work. So we just have to scale this up. So I'll just try to scale so that it gives me. So I don't have time to be positioning. So it's just the same idea that you use in positioning that we just follow this. So I'm just going to scale this so that it gives me more like what I have. All right. So I think this is close. All right. So that's close. So I'll do the same thing for this guy. Just hit tab, go to edge mode, select these edges that I need, this, 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 and then that. And if I isolate to be sure that I have the edge that I need selected, U mark sim, and then the last one, just select these guys, U mark sim. And so what we are doing is we are telling Blender where we want to cut from. And then if you go to your face mode, select all, U, and then unwrap. Then it's going to unwrap again. You know that we need to rotate this way, hold down control, and then we'll scale this up. And but now the thing is not showing us the texture. Remember, we have to add that UV grid that we created so that we can visualize that. So this feels too small, meaning too large. So I'll just bring this down a little bit. All right, so that's fine. And that is how I'm going to go ahead to finish up all of this. So with that idea, you see that here, let's now start looking at this guy. This is let's call this brick. And this brick object here is not really showing the brick that we need it to show, right? And that's why we're having that problem. If I change this to the UV grid, just to show you, you also see that it's not really uh, showing anything. It's not really grading like it's supposed to. So if I press my tab, I will now decide to say where I want this to cut from, right? So I want to cut all these edges out. So I will go to my edge mode, select these edges like so, all these edges. Obviously, I want them to be cut out. And I'll do the same thing for this back part. And then you're going to mark a seam. So that will be marked as cut seam. I also want to cut this edge here and here so that, so what this means is that it's going to join these two together. All right. So, and, and join these two together. So I'll do the same thing here. Mark these opposite seams or edges. You mark seams. So I'm done with this. The next thing is here. I want this to be a continuous shape, so I'll just leave that here. I want to cut from here all the way down and then cut this. Okay, so okay, so it will not work because you can see we're having this. Maybe I can actually cut from here. So I will leave, okay, so I'm going to get rid of that. I want this whole face to be left alone. I forgot to match this, but this is inside, so really you're not really seeing that. So I'm going to cut this by marking that. And this face, I will leave this guy. I want this to get connected with this. So I will just leave this not cut out. So I'll just come here, cut out this, U maxim. And meaning if I leave this unmarked, meaning it's going to just um, unfold it and I'm going to have a straight line going that way. So I will leave that and I'm going to cut this at this point, U mark, and here. So because I want this to unfold, so I'm going to just cut this and here, and this one will be its own object. Uh, so this here, let's mark that as a different seam. So we also have this U mark. So that means that leaves us with these guys. So basically, I'm just picking the point where I'm going to be marking. So I want this to be a continuous point all the way up here. I want to mark here also. So I want this top to be a continuous face. So I'll just, and also this base, I'll just cut at this point. You mark. So there's no point marking here because really this is not connected to anything. So we'll just cut all the way here. And that's just what we're going to have. And I think basically that's all of this that I can do for this object. So once I have this all marked and go to object mode, make sure all my scales are applied. And then if I go to face mode, select all, U, and then unwrap. It's going to unwrap that. So you are beginning to, you can now see that I now have that showing. And also, if we come here and go to my point mode, you see these points and the down part. Okay, so let's pick this for instance. Uh, this is right here, and this is right. So this is actually mapped correctly. You can already see if I go to the face, select this face, this is correct. And here is actually correct here. This is the only place I want to check. So you can see that this is, instead of it going horizontal, it's going vertical, all right? And we don't want that. All the horizontal ones should be horizontal. These verticals are correct, but all these ones at this top here, they should be corrected. This is fine. All right. So I could decide to rotate that and just have it work. But now the thing is, if I go into this and I change this back to the um, brick, you start to see where the problem will lie. So you can see here. So this is meant to be horizontal brick, just like this is. You can see what's happening. Let's scale this up. So you can already see that all these ones are mapped correctly. You can see. But once we get to this is not really mapped correctly. This is not mapped correctly. So we need to start to correct them. So if I select this face, I would have to look for which one is at the top. This is at the top, and this is base. And you can see that this one should be on this side, right? This should be here. So if I go to face, select this face, and also select that face, I want to rotate them like so. All right, so the position is not now necessary anymore. I just want the orientation to be correct. And this also, I think this is correct. Yeah, it's correct. Yeah, so but this one is not correct. This. So remember the rotation direction. So I'll just rotate it this way, hold down control, and I can go and position this. It doesn't have, you shouldn't overlap any objects. It's very important that it's not overlapping. So we have that done. We also have this part is correct. This one is not correct. And rotate this way and then move this into position. And now we have, I think basically we have corrected this. So this is the only thing that will be needed because if we are following this, this should also follow suit and this down parts. But let's do the top first. So rotate this way and then this base also rotate, and then I can just move this so that they are not intersecting with anything. So now I've set this correctly. I think this is left to do. I'm going to rotate this uh, this way, like so. Yeah, so that it continues that way. And I'll do the same thing for this guy. Rotate here, so that the break is continuous, right? It's not like it's breaking at that point. So once it gets here, we have a different um, rotation or whatever it is. So that is how you would want to do this. So if I unisolate, you start to see that this is now looking the way it should be with the textures, right? So now what we can do, we can either use our UV to increase the texture, or we could come to our texture slots and just change the scale. So the way this is, the higher the value of this scale, the smaller the texture brick will look like, and then the lower the value, the larger the brick. So it's up to you what size, and if you can also know the size of the brick, you can also just do your calculations. But hey, I don't have the time for that, so I just eyeball it to see what works, and that is that here. And now for this one, I could also give it a texture, but don't forget this is just unwrapping tutorial. just to show you how you would unwrap all of these. And then in the next one, we're going to texture this. I just use this to explain. So I'm going to continue in that way to finish up the unwrapping. So let me just quickly show you a very fast way to unwrap. So if I unisolate this, sorry, if I isolate this rather, and I want to unwrap this box like so, I could quickly unwrap this if you agreed. I can quickly unwrap this by, instead of me telling Blender I want you to cut here, cut there, what I could do is if I go to tab mode, okay, so I forgot something while I was working here. I forgot to apply my all of the Boolean operations so that they become one object. So I think let me see if I can it will work without applying first. So if I press A to select all of these guys and I go to U, again, make sure your scales are applied. It's very important. You have options to also quickly do unwrapping different projection type. So if you go to your smart UV project, so what that will do is Blender will make do of a particular angle to quickly unwrap for you and then position them correctly. We'll try as much as possible to be accurate. So if I do this, it's going to unwrap for us. And then it's just a very fast way unwrapping. And then what we can now do is come here. Remember, I want this to be kind of same with this. So if I just, it tries to put them inside this. So it's cutting every part and trying to position them correctly. So I'll just have it all selected and then scale up so that we can have it like so. And I think that's good in this case. And go out. And you can see this is a very fast way of unwrapping your products. If you are being lazy and you don't want to tell Blender where you really want to cut, so you could just quickly do that. You see, that's done. If I come to the row, I want to do the same. Make sure application, everything is applied, and then have my UV grid to this just as a placeholder. Go to edit mode, A to select all in the face mode, U, and then you have your smart graph. You also have your cube projection. It will try to project it in the cube format, and that's another way which you have it. And then if cube is working fine, there's no point. So you can actually use every of those unwrapping technique or algorithm, and that will do that. And see that this is unwrapped for me. And then you also have every other thing. So if you have, for instance, you have an object that looks like a cylindrical object, you want to unwrap that. You know that this is a cylindrical shaped object. It would not be appropriate for you to be using cube. If you know that. So you would want to use the right unwrapping. You can see the way it's stretching, and you can tell from here that is not really unwrapping correctly. So let's solve this. So if I go to make sure everything is applied, go to tab, A to select all, and then U. We have cylindrical projection. It will try to project it correctly and in the cylindrical format. But now this is messy, so I'm going to go back. If we try cube, I think cubic in this case does the work even better than the cylindrical unwrapping. Uh, so, but let's try smart UV. Smart UV also works, but it's just the textures are so large. But we have to also look at this. It's trying to rotate. We don't want that. So let's just go back to the cubic. I think the cubic does it better. So we can just scale this up to have that texture like so. We're really going to be far from it, and it's going to be a metallic object, so we won't really see it anyway. So, and that's how we could unwrap that. I've actually unwrapped this one, so I really do not need to do anything before the I've unwrapped this before this video, or maybe what I just need to do is to increase my or to try to quickly scale up this unwrap stuff. That's just maybe what I might want to do. But you can see that everything is done for us. So I've done this uh, ahead of time. So if I come here, tab, A to select all and just scale this up just so that I can have this looking all good and go back. That's done. Do the same thing here. A to select, sorry, not at this point. Tab, A to select all, come to this unwrap, A again, and then S to scale this up just so I can have everything looking fine. And that's basically how you would do that. And I'm left with this. So this is just one object that has that is put in array modifier, and also it's not really looking odd from every other thing here. So, but then it's applied, tab, select all. Also, you can see that this is the reason why it's looking odd. If I press my U, um, cube unwrap, and then you have this. So what I might not just need to do is, because right now, because this object is small, the UV is kind of small, so I might need to reduce the scale here so that it feels same way. I think I want it to be smaller, like so. Yeah, and then come back to this, A to select all, and U, keep projection. I'm not seeing anything because I need to put that UV on that UV grid, and this looks nice. I think this is fine. And I'll select this tab, it select all, U, cube projection, and let's try smart CV. Go back, UV, and add that here. And I think this is fine. I'll just come and scale this up a little bit. Like so, the reason why I don't want to use the cube is trying to some islands are crossing, so that's why I try to avoid that. So basically, this is how you would do this. You can see that I've unwrapped basically everything. The remaining thing is just this window. And so this window, remember in my last video, I used Mesh for that. So everything is probably is basically unwrapped correctly. So I don't need to unwrap this. Okay, so but the ones that I made myself are these ones, which I need to unwrap. So this is the last one. And then A to select all, U, smart unwrap. And then I have that. And I can just add my UV grid to this. And this perfect. And that's how you unwrap that. Sorry, that's my daughter. So this is basically how you can unwrap your architectural model. And I'm going to stop here. And in the next video, we're going to look at how to texture this. So if you feel this was helpful, please do give me a like and a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, please do subscribe because I do tutorials like this every day. So have a wonderful day and God bless you. Bye.